We've been talking about this Pedgo 2 video for quite some time. Pedgo 2 obviously being a sequel to 9/11 because where just George Bush was on 9/11 when the planes were hitting, they were reading a story called The Pet Goat.
Get ready.
The pet goat.
Yes, the pet goat. Fingers on.
Okay, so that was on 9/11. Now, since it's called the sequel to 9/11, that alone should make people take it seriously. But on top of that, there's been so many things in this video that have been validated. It has a timeline. This video was put out in 2012. Mysterious Origins, the guy who put it out, he says he had visions of things that he doesn't know what they mean, but he just had these visions, highly detailed visions, and he's just conveying the visions. So I think it's insider information. The way that they want you to believe, I'm convinced, is that they are interacting with a transcendent being who foretold events ahead of time, and then in the end, that transcendent being, quote unquote, is going to tie into the Antichrist doctrine. Now, this video has showed the graduation of Obama, the inauguration of President Trump, deals with the 2017 year, named hurricanes to occur in 2017, etc. But the gist of the video, again, sequel to 9/11, a lot of it is pointing to the attack on the USA. And that's why you have, here, the flag gets ripped in half in this scene. It just shows great destruction out here outside the classroom. And I'm going to get into, just kind of quickly a recap regarding this lunar eclipse that's to occur the night of the 27th. The evening of the 27th for us here in the U.S., but for Israel, where it's visible at, it's going to be the night of the 27th, somewhat into the 28th. But let's look at this right here. This is just real quick. I do want to give an honorable. When you look at this Psalm 23 graffiti on the wall, it has a lot of hidden meaning into it. But I did want to give an honorable mention to Skander Garby. He says, the other day I flipped a Psalm 23 picture on the wall to a 90 degrees. The A makes it perfect 2. The A letter makes a perfect 2. The yellow lightning bolt makes a perfect 7. And I checked it out, and it does look like he's saying this right here makes a 2. Okay, this right here. And there is a lot of hidden meaning in this video, so I wanted to give an honorable mention because it makes sense, and it does look like a big O2 for sure. And that could easily be taken as a 7. Alone wouldn't be significant, but because of the relevant information in this video that it points to the 27th lunar blood moon, it was worth mentioning. And good job, Skander. Good job. Group effort for sure. Alright, so this video deals with the bombing of, I think, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Okay, shows the bombing of a mosque here. The 3 planes come out, shoot a missile, bomb the mosque. Missiles come out of that mosque. Okay, and that ties into nuclear missiles. And here she has this dead boy. Well, this same dead boy who was killed in that bombing of the mosque comes up here, and he comes up underneath a full moon. Okay, now I've already talked about how this video points to July in so many ways. The red after the room, it always goes like the 6 figure, and then the girl with the red, she's lit up, and then she also represents New Year's Eve. I've gone through all that about the Times Square dropping of the ball. It goes through 2017. 2017 goes dark. She stays lit up, and as it's transitioning from light to dark, it presents another set of information. Video is very multi-layered. I think those who have watched my channel for a while understand that. And then Bush is over here doing his red. He points to the two June figures, and then he moves from them up, pointing to the shark on the wall, the shark in the map of the destruction, while he looks out the window. Gone over all that stuff, not going to go over all that again. You know, it goes over into the seventh window here. The classroom pertains to this. The seventh window, July, if you will, and August is where the snow hits, but past the room where the sixth window goes up to, the seventh window past the room is where you see the red color, because after the room is red. When he does his boom sign, or excuse me, when George Bush points to the map with the sharks and stuff, he's looking out the window, and see, he comes from June, points to the map with a catastrophes pin on it, deals with catastrophes, points to the submarine, looks out the window. It extends past this room. This room goes up to June. Okay, but what I'm pointing to is the fact that there is a full moon above this bombing of the Moss figure. We've gone over this. This is somewhat of a recap. And the full moons of this month are on the 27th and the 28th. Okay, that's the moon phases for July. Now, 27th is a full moon, 28th is a full moon. Now, not only that, but keep in mind that the full moons have different names, and the full buck moon is, which occurs July 27, 2018. Traditionally, we have called July's full moon the full buck moon. Okay, so if this pertains to July, the full moon pertaining to July, this would be the full buck moon. Okay. Now the mosque gets bombed where this boy comes. He's flying up out of the mosque. This is the same boy that gets killed in the mosque. See, the mosque, he's flying up out of the mosque. The mosque gets bombed. We see there are three planes. 1, 2, 3 planes. This one has a missile. That's what that is. That's the missile, and it shoots down at the mosque. The mosque gets hit with the bombs. Then missiles come out. Okay, now keep that in mind. But the mosque gets hit with the bomb. 3 planes, missile comes out. Full moon above the mosque when the boy flies up. That's what it's showing you here. Okay, I hope you can see it, but there are 3 leaves here above, kind of pointed down here, and an object, a vine, if you will, striking down at the bottom of this buck. This represents the 3 planes with the missile that got shot out, hitting at the bottom, and the buck flying up from that scene. Okay, so 3 planes, the missile striking, the buck flying up. That's what that represents, and I've thought that for a long time now. 3 planes, missile, buck flying up. But the fact that the 3 planes striking corresponds with the full moon, and the fact that the full moon is called the full buck moon really solidifies this, I think, as pointing to the July full moon, the 3 planes striking at the bottom, because it all ties together. This is multi-layered. Believe me, it all multi-layered information is just compiled into this video in a massive way, and it's encoded. You know, it's not just giving you everything without research or without understanding the hidden meaning underneath it. So the night of the buck moon striking the mosque, and the boy flies out under the full moon. Now, if that was not significant enough by itself, whenever you understand that the planes strike the mosque and the bombs come out, the missiles shoot out of the mosque. Okay. Now watch this. As the missiles shoot out, you also have these black birds flying up. So you have the missile plumes here, you got the black birds flying up out of the mosque there. So missiles, black birds. Now, in an Islamic issue, right, the mosque, that's what you see over here when it shows Osama bin Laden. Islamic issue, you know, even though he was a CIA agent and he's got the CIA badge on, but he was dead at the time they put this out. But they're using imagery relating to the first 9/11 in regard to the sequel to 9/11, Petco 2. Okay, so it is referring to 9/11. The fact that it uses imagery from 9/11 lets you, you know, it's a confirmation. But it's the sequel, Petco 2. Anytime you have a 2, it's a sequel, right? So this is the sequel to 9/11, the next attack on the USA. Okay, so when the missiles come up and the black birds beside the missiles, okay, black birds come up, missiles, Islamic issue. Same thing here. Osama bin Laden has these black bird wings, Islamic issue, and beside him are these missiles. Right? They look like people, but they have warheads for heads. So this pertains to the bombing of the mosque scene as well. Blackbirds, missiles, that's what it's talking about there. Blackbirds and missiles. Look behind him. What do we have coming up during the night of the full buck moon? We have the longest lunar eclipse, the longest blood moon within a century's time, or for, you know, for the next century. Blood moon. There is an eclipse going on, and the moon is red, which occurs whenever the moon gets eclipsed. It'll, you know, it'll start to get eclipsed out, and then when it gets all the way eclipsed, it'll just be one big red circle. So not only do you have reference here, Blackbird missile tied into the mosque, blood moon tied into the mosque, lunar eclipse tied into the mosque, but you've got full moon tied into the bombing of the mosque as well. So it all ties together. You've got the buck moon tied into the bombing of the buck, tied into the bombing of the mosque as well, which there's a full moon above the mosque. It only makes perfect sense. Buck moon. So you understand what I'm saying here, and so yeah, there's pretty big inference in this video that it is talking about the night of the blood moon, you know, and the full moon extends into the 28th, like I showed you on the moon phase calendar. But it looks like things begin popping off that night, the night of the blood moon, the bombing of the mosque. So, although the birds have not flown up yet, while the blood moon is going on, the birds and the missiles have not flown up yet. It looks like, you know, this is when things come into view, if you will. And after it's bombed, they do fly up. So before that, it looks like there's something going on with the markets, and war breaks out. You know, war coverage next, the markets plunge, uranium. Okay. So, and then it's got what looks to be some type of glitch in the ticker below his eye, below the main headline, because it keeps repeating S&P 500. So, I don't know. I've speculated that could be cyber attack. But there you have it. I just kind of wanted to give a quick recap. Oh yeah, I did want to talk about this. Pego 2 definitely deals with Revelation 12. Okay, it ties into the, you know, the girl inside of, you remember September 23rd, whenever they said the stars were aligned and the Virgo was giving birth to Jupiter, and that was a big sign that was a fulfillment of the Revelation 12, 1 and 2 sign. That's what they're saying here, because on the 2017 calendar, August, you know, was when the eclipse occurred. This deals with September, goes the back row and then comes back to front. In between September and October, you got a woman clothed in white like a virgin, if you will, uh, the eclipse under her feet. So the moon under her feet, she's clothed, surrounded by the sun, and she's got the 12 figures or 12 stars above her head. And she gives birth. And, you know, Heliofant calls the screen face Draco, the dragon waiting to devour the baby as soon as it's born out of the egg. Gone over all that. So, but it definitely deals with that. I've talked about how he, in some sense, represents Michael, how Q represents Michael, you know, in this video, and how they're tying it into the narrative they're giving you is that there is a shadow government in the U.S. And the U.S. is going to be taken down in conjunction with Q or good elements of the U.S. government. That seems to be the narrative that they're giving you, and that's the same thing that Q, you know, was saying. And I pointed out how, you know, it says I'm Q beside this lady who is supposed to represent Michelle Obama. In some sense, he winks at her. She winks back. But beside her, it says I'm Q. You know, I'm Q. And, you know, she's basically the other adult in the room that's supposed to be protecting the kids. And so that's what it's pointing to. Obama winks at her, she winks back. In a sense, representing Michelle. Michelle means Michael. It's the female version of Michael. I'm Q. Michael, the other aspect of the government, Michael, and the devil, the dragon, because remember, George Bush, who she's very leery of here, is puppeted by Draco, the dragon. And that just ties into what they're saying here. There was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought in his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, the old serpent called the devil and Satan. Okay, so they're saying, you know, the war between Michael and his angels, and the war is in heaven. Okay, now that is what they're showing here. The dragon cast down, things that pertain to the USA ripped in half. Now when it shows this right here, he is in an elevated position, but right when he comes under this circle here, maybe indicating a full moon, there's a 3 above it. I think this 3, my best knowledge, would correspond with Revelation 12:3. We see LC or 12:3. We see 12:3, you know, in front of the lighthouse tower here, where, you know, the birth is supposed to take place. Revelation 12:3 says the dragon appears. See Revelation 12:3, and there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. Okay, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And that's what it's showing here. Remember, that was Revelation 12:3. Now this is supposed to be a man face up, the other half a woman face down. The birthing canal of the woman here, and the 12:3 in front of it. That's how I'm taking it. That the dragon is waiting to devour the child as soon as it's born. The dragon appears in that position. Okay. And that's what you see through the video. You know, the dragon standing before the egg with a baby in it, waiting to devour the child as soon as it's born. Okay. So, going back to this, the war in heaven. And there's also a circle here, and maybe that corresponds to the full moon, because this could be a... Okay, so he looks up right when he goes under the circle, right when he goes under the... It kind of looks like an 8 there. Maybe for 2018, I don't know. But right when he goes under the 3 in the sky here, and there is a clock tower here on 12, so 12:3, if you will, you know, perhaps, you know, just a reference to Revelation 12:3, the dragon. Right when these things line up, he falls off his elevated position. Okay. That's when he falls. Okay. Now, so looking at this, what is this object? And I mentioned it before, but I wanted to touch on it again. Let's zoom in here. What is this object? Well, this object, I believe, corresponding with the war in heaven, he falls from heaven, if you will, falls from his elevated position. If you just cut it off there, and you can see it looks like a jet flying in the sky. And I think that's what it corresponds to. The war in heaven, he falls from there. You know, the dragon is cast down. That is, the corrupt version of the USA is taken out. But again, good cop, bad cop, an excuse to take down the USA. Okay. Because although this nation has fallen into sin, the America has a lot of military might, etc., and it was just destroyed from the inside. And so that's what it is. It's just a good cop, bad cop. Stand down. We're taking over, but we're the good guys. Martial law troops in the street, against the law, to have it as such. But they're saying it's going to be a blackout, etc. That, oh well, you know, it's not about this life anyway. But it looks like a jet, so that's what I'm presenting. And as a jet, it's interesting that it just has this circle up top. Does that correspond with a full moon as well? And so anyway, that's it, guys. I just wanted to touch base with you, and good job. I appreciate you guys giving your feedback, and it's a group effort. So there you have it. Regardless if it's another piece of the timeline or not, it looks for sure like the night of the blood moon. Things pop off, and it shows the bombing of the mosque. So, and the full buck moon only occurs the 27th and the 28th. So, in the length of the video, you know, Julian T put out a video where one of his subscribers commented saying that the video was 7 minutes 27 seconds long. This is a slowed down version of it, the extreme slow motion. But the official Heliofont website has it at 7 minutes 28 seconds long. So it just depends on just like the form, just wherever you look, okay? Because it's either 727 or 728, one or the other. But the full moons last 27, 28. The blood moon is on the 27th, and the video is 727 or 728, corresponding with July 27, July 28. It just makes sense. And again, you know, sequel to 9/11. That's what it's talking about. So, you know, it's surreal. It's just surreal because, I mean, especially for me, because, you know, I cover it so much, I just become numb to it, you know. But I still feel obligated to convey the information, because if I can pull myself out of that lull and just be like, just look at the information, you know, understand the significance that they named hurricanes ahead of time, that, you know, Hurricane Mary and Joseph, because it deals with the coming out of the Antichrist in September. And then a little over 9 months later, you got Typhoon Mary and Hurricane Chris, etymologically means Hurricane Christ, quote unquote, in the same area where Hurricane Mary and Joseph were. Gone over all that stuff. And that stuff is shown in this video. And they're talking about the coming out of the Antichrist. And Mary and Joseph and Hurricane, quote unquote, Christ were right there off the East Coast. And that's what the video shows, that the dragon, i.e. the one who is puppeting the presidents, is waiting to devour the child as soon as it's born. Okay. And so they're basically saying the dragon, the United States, waiting to devour the child as soon as it was born, stood in front of the child, Mary and Joseph and Hurricane, quote unquote, Christ, right there off the East Coast, right beside the dragon. So, you know, that's what they're talking about. I'll leave links down to my books below. Free to download. Please download them. Please share them. Absolutely free. Because this Antichrist doctrine, I don't make money off my videos. I don't mind. You don't see ads on my videos. I don't put ads on my videos. I don't make money off my books, and now I'm trying to get them out there free. I spent literally hundreds of dollars this past week shipping out books overseas to try to continue the work after America falls. So, especially you guys overseas, please download my books, save them on a flash drive or something, and and they'll help. The books are Explain the Cross, Why Jesus Have to Die, revisits the whole theme, because the mainstream theme, that God was angry with sin, but Jesus, he chose to have Jesus punished on the cross in order that the uh, guilty may be found innocent. How does that make sense? And that's where a lot of the books began, was with a question, wanting to understand it. How does that make sense? There's no courtroom in the entire world where a guilty man would stand before a judge and the judge would say, you deserve death, but in order for me to have mercy on you, I'm going to have my son brought in and have the bailiff, execute him in a horrible way. And because of that, you're going to be innocent. It just doesn't make sense. It's really flies in the face of what would seem like justice, Uh, to have an innocent man punished is by very nature an injustice. So how does that make sense? Why would Jesus have to die on the cross for God to forgive? We don't exact punishment from one another. Whenever, if I want to forgive you, I just forgive you. You know, I don't have to have my child punished. God forbid. It just sounds horrific. But, and I'm not questioning the validity of the gospel message at all, but I'm saying that it is misrepresented. It's mispresented. And I wanted to understand it, and I prayed about it, and honestly did not understand it until after I prayed. And God gets all the glory. The book Restoring the Biblical, or Explaining the Cross, Why Jesus Have to Die, goes into that. I actually read it on my website, on my YouTube channel. It's the feature video on my page. Um, Restoring the Biblical Christ, Is Jesus God? This book deals with the notion of the Trinity doctrine. Is God a Trinity? Is he composed of one being composed of three persons? What is the history behind that? Uh, and the first chapter is very well documented history. It shows the formulation of what is presented today as, the mainstream, unquestionable version of Christianity. And you'll find out in that first chapter that it is a corruption. Actually, what most people believe today is a corruption of the original Christian doctrine. It is not what the first Christians believed. First chapter goes into the history of it, very well documented. Chapters 2 through 16 are just straight up Bible study, like going deep into the Bible. Chapter 16, and again, these are all free. I'm not plugging my books to make money. These are free. I'm going to leave links below. You can download them for free. Chapter 16 is, and please do, because one of the books is I got off the phone with my publisher today for the paperback of Salvation Bible Commentary, and it's still being suppressed. They said they were going to contact me in 1 to 2 business days, and they never contacted me, and I called them back, and now it's just, having to wait. So don't, don't count it lightly. Sometimes, like we see this material in this video, it's hard to take it as serious as it probably merits. And the same thing with these books. I don't believe it's a coincidence that God's using my channel to expose this, because it's really not about picking the timing or finding the timing. It's really about our eternity. And they are coming out with a false version of eternal life, a false version of of Christianity, which ties into Gnosticism, which is a very, very early corruption of Christianity. And chapter 16 of that book, Restoring the Biblical Christ, shows that it deals with John chapter 1 verse 18 specifically, but it goes into showing that the Gnostics corrupted the early Christian writings. And that's why I like the NIV, different versions you have today. If you read John 1:18, it reads differently than it does in, for example, the King James Version. King James says only begotten son. NIV, other versions say like the unique God or the one and only God instead of only begotten son. Why the difference? why are they presenting that as the true text instead of only begotten Son? I explain it all in chapter 16 and go into why they are doing that. But when you understand the roots of it, it is a Gnostic perversion. Gnostic perversions have found their way into our scriptures today. Into our versions we have today, Gnostic corruptions. You got to understand this now, because it's going to sound so pleasing and so welcoming, and there are going to be great deceptions to back it up. But you have to understand the truth. Okay. Jesus Christ has come in the flesh according to the scriptures. They're going to say Jesus Christ did not have the flesh. You know, he was a transcendent being that just came through Mary, but was not an actual flesh person like we have flesh. Talk about all that in chapter 16 of that book. Get it, read it, it's free. And the Salvation Bible Commentary is temporarily suppressed. The paperback version, there is a couple hardback versions, but I'm again putting links to the PDF file. But there is also the Armenian Bible Commentary, which is just a different title, same content. And so you can still, for the time being, purchase the paperback of the Armenian Bible Commentary. And it's over 600 pages, and you know, a lot of work went into it. PDF's gonna be free. Okay, I can't. If I could I spent $100 last week shipping out physical books. If I could give it to everybody, I would. I just don't have the money, and I don't accept money from subscribers, because I don't want that to be people slander me anyway. And I want not only for my testimony to remain seen for what it is, that this is a sincere endeavor, not a money grab. There's too much of that these days, man, where people are trying to pimp God to get money for their own selfish reasons and sucking money out of people that don't even have money. And they're trying to do it as an honor, you know, to honor God, and I understand that, and may God bless those who wanted to give. But it's too much of that, man. And I'm not saying it's wrong for people to, and it's right for people to make a living if they are full-time ministers. But making a living doesn't mean, you know, you're the millionaire big baller while those people in your congregation are poor and lacking. That is not the biblical way. That's not what Jesus did. That's not what the apostles did. Jesus said, when you enter into a house, take those things that are given to you, because a workman is worth his labor. You know, he's worth his hire. He's worthy of his hire. And in the context, he's talking about food and drink, you know, and shelter. That's what he was like, let them provide for you. It's fine. But he wasn't saying, you know, they're going to build you a big mansion and you just post up. He's saying, no, you need to be working and be content with the things that you need. And even in Matthew 6, when people say, all things shall be added unto you, and they use it as this, you know, oh, you're going to be rich. In the context, Jesus was talking about food and raiment, or, you know, clothing and food. That's what he's talking about. The necessities of life. Don't worry about the necessities of life. Seek first the kingdom of God. But they've twisted that to where people are all absorbed in material wealth, and they're trying to use God as the means to that end, and it's a shame. The Salvation Bible Commentary / the Armenian Bible Commentary, again, PDFs down below, goes through, it's a reference book. It goes through all the scriptures that people say show you can live in sin and still be saved in the end. That is not the gospel message. There's a lot of scriptures people say, well, you know, just believe Jesus died on the cross for your sin, you're saved, you know, regardless of what you do, etc. They talk about Calvinism, you know, predetermination, you're predestined to do these things, and, you know, God doesn't want some to be saved. There's a lot of that going on. That's the main teaching in today's seminaries. The Salvation Bible Commentary goes through all that. It's just a compilation of different commentaries, all in the public domain, minus one that the publisher, his publisher, Kaufman's publisher, told me I could use the material. But it's compilation of all these commentators. You go to that specific passage, that, people say proves, you can live in sin and be saved or whatever. And I've got different commentaries there. Go into the Greek. I quote ante-Nicene fathers, people that wrote before 325 AD, showing that the early Christians did not believe that stuff that they're teaching these days, and showing that the Bible does not teach that either. But it's a complex issue. That the book is 600 and some pages, absolutely free. Download it, share it, republish it, get the word out. Okay, just don't change it. So I'll leave the links for that stuff down below, and we are in serious times. It's hard to wrap your head around it, but just have your soul right with God, because this world's passing away, and whether we live 100 more years or whether we die in the next 5 days, what difference does it make? We're all going to die anyway if the rapture doesn't occur first, and the rapture is not going to occur until after a lot of the stuff happens that people think we're going to get raptured out of here first. It's not happening yet. So you guys take care. And again, please, especially if you're overseas, download my books, get my books, at least have them. But these are things that are vastly misrepresented in today's society, and the majority of the world is supposed to be Christian. And it's amazing to me how lightly doctrinal matters are taken, and how much error is just propagated, and how it just seems to not be a big deal. Like nobody takes it serious. When I study history in the past, I see how the understanding of the scriptures and of doctrinal matters was a issue at the forefront. And today I'm just honestly amazed at the lack of concern behind it. And it's honestly it's discouraging to me, man, because I spent so much time on those books. And I thank God that at least, I come away with an understanding myself. Uh, but, but you never know, ladies and gentlemen. You never know how your actions will reverberate in the lives of others. And I wrote the books. My intent when I wrote these books and put them out was to continue the work after America falls. And so it may just be that it may be in one of your hands, somebody that lives in Uganda or Russia or Australia or Canada, France. I've had people buy my books in Brazil, Mexico, Germany. Maybe one of you guys will take it and run with it. And you can republish it. You can put a forward at the front and an appendix at the back. You can say, this is what I disagree with, but just don't change the content. And help me to bear fruit, so when I stand before the Lord, I will have more fruit to present. Because Jesus told the servant who had the 1 talent in Matthew 25, you should have at least put my money in with the money changers, so that when I came back, I could get it back with interest. In other words, do something with the talent that he's given you. And that was kind of my theme when I was writing this. At least I can, deposit this stuff into the life of somebody, and they can replicate it. So even after my death, when the Lord comes back, he'll be able to gain what was his, what he deposited in me, with interest. And God knows my sincerity, and he gets all the glory for it. So thank you. Go get my books, please. Please, please, please. Free. Absolutely free. I spent money. First time I published Restoring the Biblical Christ, I spent over $1,000 through Outskirts Press publishing that book. And that's not to mention all the books I had to buy during the editing process, all the vacation time sacrificed, stress, time away from the family, major sacrifice. And I'm not asking nothing for it except for you to take it and read it and share it for the sake of eternal things, because we are going to have to give an account.